So you're recording in FL Studio and having latency issues. Well, I'm here to save the day and drop the sauce on how to record with no latency in FL Studio. But before we get into it, I want to thank y'all for helping me reach 500 subscribers. The community's been growing rapidly lately, and I've been in contact with almost each and every one of y'all. And y'all been cool as fuck, so thank y'all for being a part of the journey once again. And with that being said, drop a like on the video, drop a sub if you're new to the channel. And with that being said, let's get into it. So to start by getting the first thing out of the way, first of all, if you're using a USB microphone, you are gonna have a decent amount of latency compared to someone who's using an XLR microphone. So overall, USB mics have latency, that's just a thing. And if you've been looking into getting an XLR microphone, that is another reason why you should look into getting one, even if you haven't been already, because not only do XLR microphones and USB, or not USB, like XLR interfaces and setups like that sound good, they also have like little to no latency, if any at all, depending on which one you get. Me personally, everything I do is ran through the Scarlett Solo 3rd gen. So yeah, you don't need some crazy $1,000 interface. As long as you have an interface that is at least decent, like the one I have, you'll be good. But as I was saying, USB mics just have latency, and there's really not that much that you can do about that. But as far as the software side of things, there is a couple of things that you can do inside of FL Studio to make sure that you have little to no latency, if any at all whatsoever. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to go up into the options tab, hit audio settings, and right here is basically all of your latency settings. So as you can see right here, the first thing we see is the device. You want to make sure that device is set to whatever you're running your audio through. So like not what you're speaking into like your mic, but whatever your headphones is set to. So if you have your headphones plugged into your interface, if you're running an interface, you want to click the interface. If you're running your headphones through your laptop, your PC, whatever, you want to put it on external headphones. And for me, I'm leaving it on default audio device because my MacBook already has the setting where it's going through my headphones. So therefore, I'm just keeping it on default audio device. Next, we have your sample rate. Now your sample rate is also another thing that can affect your latency in FL Studio. So the lower you have it, the less latency you will get. And it doesn't really actually sound worse as far as like if you were to put it on 4800 or 48,000. It's basically literally the same thing. So just keep your sample rate on 44,000. It's not really that deep, and it doesn't really sound bad at all whatsoever. This is just one more thing that can also make sure that you have less latency in your recordings while you're recording in FL Studio. Now, probably the most important thing out of all of these settings is your buffer length. Now your buffer length is something that matters a lot as far as how much CPU your FL Studio is running out of your computer. So if your computer is stressing trying to load and run FL Studio, pretty much what you want to do is you want to pull it all the way to the right, like I have it right here on 93 milliseconds. The reason why is because once you pull this to the left some, or the more you pull it to the left, the more CPU your FL Studio is taking out of your computer. It's gonna run your computer harder, basically. But so the best setting to put this on, basically, if you want basically no latency at all whatsoever and you don't want it to run your computer that bad, what I do is I put this on 3 milliseconds. You want to make sure that your buffer length is on 3 milliseconds. And I'm not too sure if with a USB mic you'll be able to set that low, but if you're running a USB mic, what you want to do is you want to just pull this as low as possible, because you're pretty much really not even going to be able to get 3 milliseconds depending on your USB mic. But for all my interface people, if you're running through an interface, what you want to do is you want to make sure your buffer length is set to 3 milliseconds. Now, for the last step of how to make sure you have no latency, majority of you guys are using auto-tune. So therefore, what you want to do is you want to go inside of your auto-tune plugin. Now, once you're inside of your auto-tune, what you want to do is you want to go to the options key right here. You want to click this, and you want to make sure that use low latency is clicked. if use low latency is not clicked, you are gonna be getting a decent amount of latency in your monitoring. So like if you have your voice monitoring in your FL Studio and you do not have use low latency clicked while you have on auto-tune, you're going to have latency no matter if you have your buffer length low or not. Therefore, you want to always make sure that if you're using auto-tune, or really any plugin for that matter, if it has this setting, you want to make sure you have use low latency clicked. Now with that being said, I'm gonna show like a little preview for y'all so like y'all could actually see and hear the difference. So like for my USB mic people, even though you can't get the 3 milliseconds, I'm gonna show you what 3 milliseconds would look like and sound like compared to how I have it right now inside of FL Studio on the maxed out, I think 96 milliseconds. So what you wanna do is here while I'm showing this preview is you wanna pay attention to like how my voice sounds as my face is moving. See, and you'll be able to hear like how late it actually is and how early it is when it's on 3 milliseconds. And also, the last thing is, the more plugins you have on, the more latency you will have. So right here, this just looks like a bunch of foolishness, nonsense, whatever, but you want to pay attention to this because these numbers right here will go up the more plugins you have on. So say right now it's at 60 milliseconds. If I go and take off Antares Auto-Tune, as you can see, this goes down to 2 milliseconds. So you want to make sure that if you really just want no latency, you really want to record with no mix on, and then after you record, throw the mix on. For me, it doesn't really matter because I majority of the time won't even use like monitoring, so it doesn't really bother me because I can't hear myself, and if I was a little bit off beat, I'll just go in and fix it. But yeah, so now to get into the preview, I'm gonna record with a preset on maxed out buffer length, and you're gonna be able to hear how late that is, and then I'm gonna record with a preset without like any buffer length on 3 milliseconds so that you can see the difference. Now let's get into it. So now as you can see, I'm talking in 3 milliseconds on a 104 sample rate right here. Not the sample rate up here, but down here you can see next to the 3 milliseconds it says 104 SMP. So this is 103 milliseconds. It's not that late at all. I hear it basically as soon as I'm actually saying it. So this is perfect for me. If you have an XLR mic and you're running through an interface, you should be able to get this same exact effect. Now, if I take this and I push this all the way to the max, you'll be able to see that the audio is very, very late compared to how I'm actually saying it. Like you can see my face moving, but the audio is late, as you can see. So this is what buffer length does. If buffer length is maxed out, you will hear a lot of latency. So you want to make sure, again, even if you're on a USB mic, you want to pull this down as much as you can. And if you're on an XLR microphone, you want to make sure that you put this on 3 milliseconds at 104, and you'll be able to get this right here, and it'll sound perfect. So there we go. And if you didn't notice already, that was my ad-lib preset from my Juice Wrld Goodbye and Go Riddance vocal preset, which you can find in the link in the description on my website, TGUWAPP3600.com. So if you don't have that already, go get it. And with that being said, this was how to record with no latency in FL Studio. And with that being said, drop a like on the video, drop a sub if you're new to the channel. And with that being said, I'm gonna see y'all later. Peace.
Couple million streams, they on the way. Donuts in the red